Flatirons. Good to see you. My name is Sam, and I'm the broadcast audio director here, which is just a fancy way of saying I take what happens in this room here and make sure that that audio gets to you, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube or any streaming platform. And maybe if you've been watching for a while or this is your first time, you could take a couple seconds and just share this experience with a friend. It'd be great for them to see it because this is a life-changing service. And speaking of life change, I think that our worship team here is life-changing and a really cool event they're doing November 1st as they're playing at after the Avs game. So make sure you go to flatironsmusic.com and grab your tickets ASAP. But we're about to jump into the countdown here for week 2 of 90,000.
Good morning, everyone. We're so glad to see you here. Welcome to Flatirons. Let's stand up together. Let's sing out this morning. I'm singing your praises with all of creation, declaring the works of your hands. My voice it is straining as my heart is longing to join in the song of the Lamb. Things new. I'm running towards you, I'm walking beside you. Your presence is always with me. Though darkness surrounds me, your glory is shining. I was blind, but now I can see. You make all things new. Let's sing it out. Jesus, the King of my salvation. You are my end and my beginning. Your plans are good, your promises are true. You make all things new. Broken, the words you have spoken will comfort and carry me home. Creation is growing, but your voice is growing so loud now my heart beats with hope. Oh, yeah. You make all things new. Yeah. that called for the sun's first light on the cross gave love's victory shout. The stone was rolled and the curtain tore. The grave was killed and your body gone. The night is past and the morning dawn. The light of life now has overcome. You make all things new, Jesus the King of my salvation. You are my end and my beginning. Your plans are good, your promises are true. Oh, you make all things new, Jesus the King of my salvation. You are my end and my beginning. Your plans are good, your promises are true. Oh, you make all things new. You make all things new. Oh, you make all things new. How great the chasm that lay between us. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living. Sing hallelujah this morning. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Yeah. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe out of the silence. The roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Oh Jesus, yours is the victory. Good morning. We're so glad you're here this morning. We'd love if you just take a second, greet someone next to you, shake someone's hand around you. You can have your seat.
Good morning, Flatirons. How are you doing? Feeling good? Welcome. I'm glad to see you all. Welcome online. Special welcome to God Behind Bars. What's up, guys? And our friends over in Burlington, how you guys doing today? I'm glad you guys are here with us. Here in Lafayette, it is fall. I'm excited. Hey, my friend John, he just asked me, is that a Packers jacket? I swear it's not, okay? I'm so sorry. I always do this kind of thing, not on purpose. And this is not a Raiders shirt either, but I'm not against any of that. So whoever your football team is, good for you. I'm glad for you, okay? Hey, welcome to fall. Welcome to Flatirons. I got a bunch of stuff I want to run through. First one is this. Speaking of sports, this is a team I love. Anybody in here like the Colorado Avalanche? Anybody a fan? Few more than last night. Come on, let me hear one more time. Colorado Avalanche are gonna be good. Come on, let's go. All right. Hey, so they have Faith and Family Night coming up on November 1st, and our band is gonna be playing at that night, which is really exciting. So you can jump on right now to flatironschurch.com/tickets. I almost got that wrong. And you can grab tickets to that game, or that post-game concert with our crew. If you buy a ticket through that, it's a discounted ticket, and you get $10 to concessions. So you get, some nachos or some soda, whatever you want to get there. It's going to be a really fun night. I hope you guys can make it. We also have some representatives from the Avalanche out there in the lobby. They can get you a flyer for it, answer any questions you have about it. I made sure that we got somebody we have out there is Nathan McKinnon is out there. No, he's not out there. No. But I'll pretend to be him for you. So I hope you all can make it that night. It's going to be a really fun night. Second thing is our friends at I Empathize are out there in the lobby this weekend for one last go. They are one of our partners here in Lafayette, and also they work around the globe, helping to combat and educate people on human trafficking. And so if you were here last weekend, we have this display that's all through our old school space out here, and you can go check that out today too. It's gonna be the last day that it's up. And it kind of just gives you a story of what I Empathize does around the world and also in this local community. Today, they have a fundraiser across the street at the district, right across South Boulder Road. If you don't have any plans, the gates open up at 11. They say they're gonna be showing the Broncos game. I know this is being broadcast live. I don't know if that's legal, so get over there before they get shut down. Go check that out. Food trucks, there's gonna be a bouncy house for kids. And then there's also some fundraising stuff going on. We'd love to have you stop by for a part of the party. If you can't make it or you got stuff going on, they also would take donations out in the lobby. You can ask them questions. Mark and his team are awesome people, so please go check out I Empathize in the lobby. Okay, a couple more quick things. Hey, so around here, some of our big goals is that we've been planning campuses all around the Front Range over the last 7 to 8 years, and we've been currently working on opening this campus in Brighton. And so a lot of questions have come in, and we've updated you guys a little bit. But I wanted to let you guys know today that door after door keeps getting slammed like right on the opportunities and choices and decisions that we've been making. And so we think God might be up to something. So what we're doing right now is we're just hitting pause as every venue either wasn't big enough or didn't have parking or didn't have space for kids or whatever that might look like. We've just been turning every corner and finding some frustration in that we can't find the right place and seal that deal in Brighton. So we're hitting pause to see what God's up to. And it might be Brighton still, it might be something nearby, but we're just praying and waiting to see what he has for us. So in this season, if you live in that community, we want you to know we're not just stringing you along. That's kind of where we're at. And so moving forward, be praying for us and the decision making and the people looking for those properties that God opens up something even more amazing than we ever could have dreamed. Cool? All right, I got one more thing. We're in this series called 90,000. It's about our work lives. And so I know we all come in here in different places, some of us in really good spots, some of us in frustrating ones. I want to tell you guys about a partner that we have here that I really love. You hear me talk about it all the time. It's called Thrive, it's called Thrive, and their website's thrivecolorado.org. And so if you're somebody in a spot where, as Ben comes up here today and he talks about work, and you're like, that doesn't even apply to me because I'm so frustrated in a job search, or it's been years, or I can't even figure out what I want to do. Thrive, they do amazing things to help you with both practical and spiritual principles to find and keep meaningful work. thrivecolorado.org is your resource to go check that out. They have some workshops coming up and a bunch of amazing things. I'd love for you to check that out. That applies to you. But I'm going to pray for us. The band's got one more song, and we're going to get going. So God, I thank you today for everybody in this room, for everybody watching online. God, for our friends that got behind bars, our friends in Burlington. God, I pray this morning, as we walk in this place, God, some of us come in here and our relationship with work is really good. Like we love what we do. We can't believe we get to do it. Some of us, we hate it. Some of us, we only do it because it pays the bills, whatever that might look like. God, some of us really are just frustrated because we can't find or keep a job, and it's just starting to have ramifications for our family. But God, I pray this morning that as we just look at what you intend for our work and what you intend for us in life as we move through these 90,000 hours that we call work in our lifetime, I pray that because of how good Jesus is, that no matter where we come in, that we can leave here feeling differently about who we are and about what Jesus says about us. God, that we can apply it to every area of our life, starting with our work today. We love you. Let me pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Take
So sick. All right. Hello. How are we? We good? All right. Nice. You're just okay today. That's fine. Me too. Hey, I want to say right off the bat, the Brighton stuff. I was set up to be the Brighton campus pastor. If you were, planning on going to that campus, and I got my phone in my pocket again. This happens every time at the 9. Let's hope no one calls me. Hey, if that's you plan on going to that campus, I'm frustrated about that too. I'm frustrated because I have my own plans and I have my own timelines and I have my own idea of what God should be doing with his church, and I was just wrong. So I get being frustrated. At the same time, I really have put my trust in who God is. I put my trust in the way he's going to lead our church, through this season and lead our church into the future. And so I really do genuinely believe, I'm not just saying it, that if he has closed every single door that I've come across in Brighton, it's because he's got some other door that he's ready to open. And whatever door he opens is going to be so much better than the multiple doors I have tried violently kicking in Brighton. I'm saying I get it. If you have questions about that, please come talk to me. Don't be shy. I'll be out in the lobby, or if you're at a different campus, shoot me an email, and let's talk about it. If it's gonna be a mean email, though, I would shoot that to Scott_Nickel at whatever church he's working at now. So anyway, let's get started. Hey, I'm glad you're here. This is our second week of our series, 90,000. This is our series on work, on career, on jobs. We've called it 90,000 because that is the average amount of time, the average amount of hours that you are going to spend at work in your lifetime. It's 90,000 hours. Like we talked about last week, that's 22% of your waking lifetime. All right? If you missed last week and this is your first week in here, I'm sorry because, I just started in the first 2 minutes, and now you're depressed about how much you'll be at work. If that's you, I'd recommend getting online. Go watch last week. Get caught up to speed. It'll take you 30 minutes. I think it'll be worth your time. Maybe it'll help you understand why 90,000 hours maybe isn't such a bad thing. All right, but today I want to get into some new stuff. To do that, though, I got to kind of refresh our memories with 2 things we learned last week. All right, the first thing is this. We learned last week that according to God, work matters. And work matters because we're joining God in making something great of this place. Okay, so work is important to God. It's important for us, and we were created to do it. We're moving the creation project forward. We're making something great of this place. It's the first thing we need to remember. The second thing we need to remember is that the ability to work is actually the first gift that God gives humanity, which means work is a good thing in our lives. All right, at the same time, though, we learned that the good gift of work is now under a curse. All right, so work itself is a good thing. That's a gift to us, but it's now under a curse. It's riddled with complications. It's going to be difficult. It will always threaten to consume your life and define your value and define your work. Okay, so we need to get on the same page with that. That's kind of refreshed our memories from last week, and now we can get into some new stuff. And today is for specifically anyone in the room who thinks that your job is pointless, or you think that your job is purposeless. It's for anyone in the room who goes like, man, what I do for a living just doesn't matter. Because that's a terrible feeling. Right? It's also a feeling that I know very well. All right, I get that feeling in this job, even as a pastor. I talked about that a little bit last week. But even before this job, I just had a history of nothing but work, nothing but jobs that felt completely pointless to me. All right, or maybe a better way of saying it is it felt like the only point to all of those jobs was to just put a couple extra coins into my pocket. All right, and that started like when I entered the workforce. All through high school and college, I was in and out of restaurants. I worked at restaurants like a lot of high schoolers and college-age people do. My very first official paycheck outside of mowing lawns and stuff was through Chick-fil-A. And I was one of those guys. Ooh, got some Chick-fil-A fans back here. You just made Truett proud. That was my first official paycheck. We knew the manager at the place, and so they snuck me into work at age 14, even though technically, legally, you couldn't hire people till they were 15. But I found out over the years they hired very many people illegally at this Chick-fil-A. That's fine. I was in trouble all the time at that job because I didn't tuck my shirt in, and I refused to say my pleasure. I refused for what I think are understandable reasons. It's just a creepy thing to say to people, so I didn't say it. Slow burn. That's all right. Take a sip of water. During summer breaks from college, I would come home and I'd work at a sandwich shop in Dallas, a sandwich shop called Potbelly. They're starting to open these here, which I'm pumped about. They're good sandwiches. But I worked at that place. One time I was cutting bread, and I nicked myself. I nicked my finger. Got blood everywhere, all right? So the dude I'm working with, he's like, I'll clean up the station. You just run back, wash your finger out, put a Band-Aid on, get back to work. I'm like, great, no problem. I go back to the sink, and I peel the glove off, and it's just like a lot of blood. I'm like, wow, that thing's really bleeding. You know how like really bad injuries don't hurt really bad right away? That was this one. And so I turn on the faucet to rinse what I think is a small cut out. I put my finger under the water, and the pressure of the water makes my entire fingertip down to the bone just go like, hanging by a thread, all right? And I hate to admit it, I'm not proud of it, but I saw that, and I immediately passed out. I tried to convince myself for a while that I passed out due to loss of blood, because that sounds more manly. But in reality, I was like, that's my finger bone, and then I passed out. This has nothing to do with today, but it's just funny, so I'm gonna tell you. I went to the ER, and the doctor was like, yeah, so this is really bad, and I don't think it'll take. Like, if we stitch it together, I think it will stay dead. So we have two options. We can reattach your finger, or we can just go ahead and amputate it now and get that over with. And I was like, well, let's try to reattach my finger. Let's give that one the college try, doc. So, and it worked. I got all my fingers, you know? It only really hurts on a very cold day, and everything else works. So, anyway, let's get back on track. I had a lot of jobs that felt pointless, right? That's my point. I was a computer animator for a hot minute. That's a little known fact about me. I was a book editor. I worked at a magazine, worked at a tech startup. I worked at a library. A lot of jobs that felt pointless. The one that felt the most pointless to me, though, was when I worked at Starbucks for a couple years, right? Now, I want to be clear. Nothing wrong with the organization Starbucks. Nothing wrong with working at a Starbucks. For me, the reason it was so hard and felt so pointless was a phase of life thing. Because Allie and I, we had been married for just a couple years. We had just moved here to Colorado. At the time, I was trying to work my way into the magazine industry. So I'd worked at one magazine for a little bit. Wasn't a good experience. Was looking for work in a different magazine. And in that in-between time, I worked at Starbucks just to make some extra bucks. And it was this phase of life thing, right? There was something about being recently married that made me feel like I don't know, I wanted to prove to Allie she doesn't have to worry about me, doesn't have to worry about my career in the magazine world. There's also something about Allie being immediately successful in her career as a dental hygienist that kind of made me feel like, you know, dude, you gotta catch up, like get your act together, she's outpacing you, right? And so it was just a phase of life thing, but I was in this bad headspace every morning. I would work the morning shift, so my alarm would go off at 3:30 a.m. I would crawl into Starbucks, I'd put that green apron on, you know, and I would tie it and think to myself like, dude, you're failing. Right? You're letting yourself down, you're letting Allie down, and now you're in this pointless job, makes no impact on the world. You're barely making any money. On top of that, you gotta wear a green apron. That sucks. You know, this bad headspace. It was starting to show at work too, right? Like I was starting to come unglued. Like there's this one regular customer who would come in who, to put it politely, was very particular about his dry cappuccino. And so, and you can tell I don't like this guy. One time, he was so upset that we didn't make this drink like perfectly to his standards that he took the lid off and threw the hot coffee at this other employee. She's this sweet, quiet little girl in high school who played cello, and he threw coffee on her, and I lost it. You know, it was like my excuse to blow off all this pent-up steam. I come absolutely unglued. I took the cup, I threw it at the dude at his expensive suit, and I told him, I'm not giving you your coffee, I'm not giving you your money back, and if you show your face in the store again, I'm gonna throw hot coffee on you. And I used a lot of 4-letter words in that tirade. He left, I never saw him again. I got officially written up for my behavior, worth it. I don't care. I was just coming unglued. I was unsatisfied, right? Dreaded every hour of work there. And that stayed that way for months until there was one day, after a couple months of work in there, this regional manager came in for a training day. I still don't remember her name. I don't even remember what the training was about. All I remember is what she said at the end of that thing off the cuff, because it changed my outlook on my job. And so she's packing up her stuff into her briefcase, and then she kind of pauses, and she looks into the distance. You can tell she's deep in thought. And then she snaps back to reality, and she looks right at us, and she goes, okay, you know what? I want to tell you why you're important to me and why you're important to your community. And then she said one sentence that I thought about every single day I worked at Starbucks after that, and I've thought about it since. She said, you don't serve coffee, you serve people. And then she gave this grand, inspiring, beautiful vision for why working at Starbucks is maybe not a waste of my time, and it could be important. And so she set up this vision, and she's like, listen, every single person who goes through your drive-thru has a real life. Right? It's the single mom, and she's got an hour break, and she's in between her first job and her second job that day. And that coffee you're serving her is the only time she's gonna get alone today. And you're serving that coffee into the hands of the dude who's half asleep because he's working 80-hour weeks to get his app off the ground. We're waking him up and getting him back to work so that he can see his dreams come true. And she just kept going. She's like, people have their first dates in your store, and then years later, they're happily married, and they have babies. People come here to celebrate and to cope and to get to work and to take a break. And she kept saying over and over again, she goes, you don't serve coffee, you serve people. And for me in that phase of life, it's exactly what I needed to hear, and it was very profound for me. I'm like, this lady treats coffee like we are rescuing the world, And it was just this really profound thing I needed to hear it. So she just drops this vision statement, and then it settles, and she's just like, okay, well, see ya, She's like, don't forget to sell our seasonal muffins, and then she just disappeared from my life. Now, I worked at Starbucks for a few more months after that. All right, I still knew it wasn't what I wanted to do for a long-term career. I was still looking for work in the magazine world. It still sucked to wake up at 3:30 in the morning. Those of you who do that of your own volition, you're crazy, right? I don't get it. But all of that stuff was still tough. But I didn't dread my job anymore. And that's because that regional manager gave me a reason for work that was bigger than just serving coffee or just making minimum wage for myself. I wasn't serving coffee. I wasn't serving myself. I was serving people. And even though I didn't realize it at the time, and I still, I have no idea what this regional manager believes in terms of faith, what she gave me is a very Jesus-like vision for going to work. And I believe that Jesus-like vision applies to you and your job too. Last week we talked about how work matters. Work in general, the act of working matters. To God, it matters to you. Today I want to drive home the point that what you do for work matters. Your job specifically matters. It matters to the world and it matters to God. It's just we don't usually see it that way. Right? Typically we don't see it that way because we categorize everything. We put things in compartments. Right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's normal. So we have categories for everything. So we say, there's stuff over here that I do for my physical health, and then there's stuff over here I do for my mental health. Those are categories, right? There's stuff over here that I do out of responsibility, stuff over here I do for fun. Over here we have football games, and then over here we have whatever it is the Broncos did to themselves last week. We put things in compartments, right? And one of the categories that we have in this life that's not very helpful is this. We say, there's stuff over here that's Jesus stuff, and then there's stuff over here that's not Jesus stuff. What we mean by that is there's there's praying and reading your Bible and volunteering at a homeless shelter and going to church on the weekend, and that's Jesus stuff. And then over here we have not Jesus stuff because I'm just cooking dinner or I'm paying the bills or changing diapers or catching up on my favorite TV show. That's not Jesus stuff, but the stuff over here is Jesus stuff. The problem with separating our lives into Jesus category and not Jesus category is that by far the overwhelming majority of your life would fall into the not Jesus stuff category. Just think about it. How much time do you spend praying and reading your Bible and holding baby lambs and talking to groups of children like Jesus does in paintings? How often do you do Jesus stuff versus everything else you got to take care of in this life? It far outweighs the Jesus stuff. And so when we categorize our lives that way, what ends up happening to us, it's subconscious, we don't realize we're doing it, but what we end up thinking is that Jesus really cares about this stuff over here, right? He's involved and he's cheering you on, and then when it comes to all the other stuff in your life, he's just kind of meh, whatever. Just do your thing, just take care of business. When we buy into this lie that there's Jesus stuff and not Jesus stuff, what you and I do is we take this massive, worldwide, history-spanning, powerful thing called the kingdom of God, the with God kind of life, and we shrink it down to 1 hour that you sit in these seats on the weekend, and that's a shame. It's much bigger than that. What does this have to do with work? Well, if we categorize stuff into Jesus and not Jesus stuff, then we usually buy into one of two lies about work, about our jobs. The first lie goes like this: work is not Jesus stuff. It just can't be Jesus stuff. So here's what this looks like for us. Maybe on the weekend you're all in, right? You volunteer in guest services or kids ministry. You sing the songs. You maybe even put your hands up. You listen to the talk and you take notes. You maybe even put money in the blue buckets on the way out the door. You're all in, right? But then Monday rolls around and you just go into the office and you're just taking care of business like everyone else. Or you go home because you're a stay-at-home parent. You're just taking care of business like every other parent, right? You go to class, you go to the construction site, you go to the cashier counter, and you're just taking care of business. You have no grand vision or purpose for why your job is more important than just earning a little bit of money. Why? Because we tell ourselves, I'm just selling shoes. I'm just balancing accounts. I'm just going door to door. That's clearly not Jesus stuff. And when we do that, this is where malaise sets in and boredom sets in. This is when your job starts to feel purposeless and pointless, and we think to ourselves, I'm spending 90,000 hours of my life doing something that's unimportant, and it doesn't matter. Why? Because it's not Jesus stuff. What we're saying when we say that is it's universally, objectively, not important. That's the first lie we buy into, is that work is not Jesus stuff. The second lie we buy into is basically the same thing. It's a little more specific. It's this: we believe that some work is Jesus stuff, but only if it's overtly Christian. So the only way your 90,000 hours of your life that you call work is going to be important to you or to God or to the world is if it's Christian stuff. So you got to go work at a church and become a pastor like me, or become missionaries, or start a nonprofit organization, as if that's the only way to not waste your 90,000 hours of life. And so we tell ourselves stuff like, yeah, you're a musician, but you have to make Christian music. And you're a teacher, but you have to work at a Christian private school. And you run a business, but you got to put the Christian fish on your business card. None of those things are bad things, but it is definitely screwed up to think that that is the only way your 90,000 hours is going to matter to the world and matter to God. When we slip into this place where we say there's Jesus stuff and there's not Jesus stuff, one of the many results is that we begin to view our jobs, our 90,000 hours of work, as unimportant and having no lasting impact on the world. We're just taking care of business. But that couldn't be further from the truth that we find in the Bible. If you read the Bible, God stresses that literally every aspect of your life is Jesus stuff, including your job. And so God stresses that your job is Jesus stuff. Yes, your job, whatever job you have, it's Jesus stuff. This is summed up quickly and neatly by a guy named Paul, who wrote a lot of the New Testament, and he says this. He says, whatever you do, and in the context of this passage, he's talking about employer-employee relationships. So he's talking about work. So he says, whatever you do for work, work at it with all of your heart, as if you were working for the Lord and not for men, because you know that you'll receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. And he says, it is the Lord Christ you are serving at your job and through your job. This verse is basically saying, whatever job you have, work at it with all of your heart. Give it the full 9 yards and pour yourself into it as if Jesus himself were your boss. Work at it knowing that your job is Jesus stuff. And again, we want to argue with that right off the bat, and I get it, all right? Because it doesn't compute immediately. And so we go how? How is my job Jesus stuff? I'm just repairing roofs or managing a warehouse or cleaning other people's houses. Yes, you are, but that falls into the category of Jesus stuff. How is that possible? Well, let's look at the kind of stuff that Jesus does. One of my favorite summaries of who Jesus is and what he's all about is found in the biographies of Jesus in the Bible. And this verse I'm about to read is Jesus himself giving his vision statement for his own work, giving his vision statement for his job. And he says this. He says, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. In other words, what he's saying is the thing that is actually important, that is actually valuable in this life, is that you serve other people. And he says, serve other people just like I do, just as the Son of Man, that's Jesus, did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. That's Jesus' vision statement for his life. And that's crazy because that's your God speaking. And what your God just said to you is, hey, I'm not here for you to serve and attend to me. I'm here to serve and attend to you for your good. And that's what Jesus did for 33 years of his life while he walked around as a human on this planet. Whether it was his career as a carpenter or his career as a teacher or his role as son or friend or miracle worker or social activist and ultimately Messiah, in all of those roles you see him serving other people. And in that verse we just read, he says, now join me in that kind of life. If you want to serve me, you will serve other people just like I do. And that is why your job is Jesus stuff. Because whether you're there yet or not, whether you understand it yet or not, I hope you do by the end of this talk, but work is one of the ways that we serve each other. That is what your job is all about. And it might sound like idealism, like a cute way of thinking about your job. It's not idealism, it's realism. Let me explain what I mean by that. So, have you ever, actually imagine this right now. Have you ever imagined what would happen to our country if everyone in America just stopped working? Like, it'd be fun for a couple hours, You'd be like, look at all this free time, But ultimately, no one is working on your favorite TV show. No one is working to make sure that Netflix is up and running. No one is working at your favorite restaurant. No one is working to make dumb memes of cats with bow ties eating dinner or whatever we laugh at, right? There would be nothing to do. And then within days, our country would resemble a post-disaster landscape, literally. I read this fascinating article where they asked the question, what would happen if every American stopped working for a week? And it was like, within a couple days, it would basically be the apocalypse. There would be no electricity and no communications and no water pumped to your house and no waste treatment. There would be no natural gas supply, so eventually you could only travel as far as you could walk. Fires would have to burn themselves out. There's no fire department. Criminal activity would skyrocket. There's no police force. National security is a ticking time bomb. There's no military. If you get in a car wreck, good luck. There's no hospitals because there's no doctors and there's no plaster for your cast in the first place. If you're hungry, good luck. There's no grocery stores because there's no shipping and there's no farming of the food in the first place. And if you go knock on the front door of City Hall to figure out what's wrong with your town, it's locked. No one's working there anymore. It would be a disaster. This article I read, it said that the only thing standing between the thriving culture that we live in right now, and however you're gonna enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the only thing standing between that and the apocalyptic Walking Dead scenario I just painted, the only thing keeping us from that is work. It's hundreds of millions of people serving one another through their careers and keeping this place afloat, and that's just true. The fact that we're able to sit in here and all these different campuses comfortably and listen to this talk on work, to hear what God has to say about work, that's only made possible through the work of millions of other people. And their work has served us well today. It took people to make your car and fill it with gas and keep the street lights working so that you could drive here, and people to make tools to cut down the trees and mill the lumber to build this building, and people to create and maintain the internet and computers so that I could type a talk and then edit and re-edit whatever dumb poop joke I'm cracking that week, right? Still one more coming, but listen, Jesus says this. He says, it will serve you well to every now and then just zoom out. All right? Step out of the cubicle where you spend your whole life and look at the big picture. Because the big picture vision of why your job matters is because you are serving the world through your career. Work is one of the ways that we serve each other, which means your job is Jesus stuff. Now, before you just think I'm talking theory, let me give you a picture of what this looks like in very real life. Okay, so earlier this year, Allie and I had a sewage drain that overflowed and got clogged, and it flooded our entire basement with our own waste. It was a great time. And so in the midst of that, we had a plumber come to our house. It was a friend of a friend, a guy I'd never met. He goes here to Flatirons. I'm going to change his name to Steve because I wasn't able to talk to him before delivering this. So Steve, if you're here, you know who you are. Come talk to me in the lobby. It'd be cool to see you. Also, I hope it's cool that I'm sharing this story because it's far too late to stop me now. But so Steve comes over, and he's going to scope the pipes. He's got the big snake thing with the camera on it. And so we're huddled in my crawl space at my house, and he's working, and he just starts telling me a story. And so he's talking to me and he says, hey, so my dad was a pastor just like you are. He goes, I always kind of figured I'd have to, go into the family business of working at a church, but at the same time, like I had different skill sets. Like I'm good with my hands, I'm good mechanically, and so eventually I just became a plumber. He said that for a while he would like feel bad about not following in his dad's footsteps until one day he just had this epiphany at work. And he said he was at this job site and he's working, and he goes, one day I just realized like my job, if I do it well, I'm taking massive problems and I'm fixing them for people who can't fix them themselves. And that's true, right? Like my job as a pastor is, to help you and help myself figure out the crap in our lives. And Steve's job is to figure out the crap in your lives, So that was your last poop joke. I'm done. But he did say that. He's like, I go into the grossest, nastiest, crappiest parts of people's lives. And he goes, and if I do my job well, by the time that I leave, I have objectively made their lives better. And then he looked at me and he said, man, my job is a ministry no less than my dad's was. And Steve is exactly right. His job is Jesus stuff, no less than his dad's was, no less than my job is Jesus stuff. Why? Because he's serving his world and he's serving it well. You are too. Your job is Jesus stuff. Now, I'd hope that for most of us in the room, we're connecting dots. Right? At the very least, we're going, that's an interesting way to think about my job. I've never thought about it that way. But the trick is not just knowing that what you do for work matters, knowing that your job is Jesus stuff. The trick is operating out of that place, operating out of the place where, like Jesus says, whatever you do, you work at it with all of your heart because you know you're serving the world through your work. So how do we catch that? How do we latch on to Jesus' vision of work as serving the world? What is one step we can take today in the direction of understanding that our jobs are not pointless, your job is not purposeless, instead it's a ministry. Your job is Jesus stuff. Well, I think that the regional manager from Starbucks had it right. I think we need vision statements for why our jobs matter in this world. Remember, she told me you don't serve coffee, you serve people. She gave me a vision for the importance of my job. It changed my outlook and my actual day-to-day happiness at work. And so I want to throw out an idea, all right? This is an exercise to get us in the right direction. This is something you could craft today. You could craft it later this week, and it might help make your 90,000 hours feel as important and fruitful and exciting as they should be. And the exercise is to write a vision statement for your job, right? That sounds corny. Well, Jesus had a vision statement for his job. We just talked about that. He said, the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. He knew clearly what his mission was. He knew clearly how it served the world, and so he was never distracted. Bible says that Jesus set his face towards the cross. He locked his eyes on that target. Nothing was going to stop him from getting there. Jesus had a vision statement for his job, so why don't we? Let's try it. Specifically, by the end of the week, fill in the following blank for your job. At work, I serve people by what? How would you fill in that blank? In what way is your job Jesus stuff? Like, take the time to do the work and figure it out. See, Jesus' vision of work as serving the world, I believe that is the accurate and true vision of work, which means I believe, no, you don't just sell cars. I believe that Jesus uses you to serve people by getting them where they need to go. You get them to work and to school and to the hospital on time, and so well done, and thank you for your service. I believe that you're not just in IT. I believe that Jesus uses you to serve people by keeping people connected to one another. Businesses float or sink based on whether or not you do your job well. And families and friends can talk to each other from across the world because of you. So well done, and thank you for your service. And no, you don't just repair shingles. You literally keep roofs over people's heads. I mean, that's like one of the 3 things we need to survive on this planet. And so well done, and thank you for your service. What is your vision statement for why your job matters? I did this work for myself, and it's been super helpful. I did this a couple years ago. Here's how I fill in the blank. It's this. At work, I serve people by making God's word engaging. I don't hit that mark every time, but I'm trying, right? I want to take this book that people see as stuffy or confusing or irrelevant, and show that it's none of those things, and it's actually exciting and life-giving, right? That's my goal. And so it's helped me to eliminate distractions. Like when I'm at work, I'm working on something, I go, is it serving that purpose? Is it serving the goal? It's helped me on weeks where work sucks and I want to tap out because it feels pointless, like I talked about last week. And most of all, it's given me a vision for why my job is more than just earning myself a paycheck. It's given me a target to set my face towards. That's mine. What is yours? What is your vision statement? At work, I serve people by what? Figure it out. Write it down. Tape it to your dashboard or tape it to your bathroom mirror or write it on a sticky note and stick it to the back of your boss's bald head or whatever. Don't forget it. At work, I serve by what? Just start there, all right? A little step. I can't even think of a reason why not to do it. All right, at the very worst, you'll waste 30 minutes and a sheet of paper. At the very best, God will use that vision to begin breathing some life back into your 90,000 hours at work. Do yourself a favor. Give yourself a vision for why your job is more important than just earning a paycheck. Give yourself a target to set your face towards. Do you want to be clear? Work is still going to be hard and complicated. Right? We talked about that last week. Work is a good gift, it's under a curse. But here's the truth, and no one would disagree with me on this. If work is hard and complicated and pointless, that's exhausting. I guarantee that's going to lead to 90,000 hours of your life watching the minute hand on the clock. But on the other hand, if work is hard and complicated, but also Jesus stuff, you are serving the world through your career. Maybe God would use that vision to breathe some much needed dignity back into your life. Some much needed dignity back into your job and your career. Maybe your 90,000 hours aren't as pointless as you thought they were. So here's what I'd like you to do. I'm going to ask that you stand up. So I'm about to pray and we'll go home, but I want you to hear this, all right? So according to the way that Jesus views the world, and I believe that the way that Jesus views the world is the way to view the world. And according to the way that Jesus views the world, he says this creation project thing that we're a part of, it just doesn't work unless all of us show up every single week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and serve one another through our careers. If we catch that vision, Jesus' vision for the importance of our work, and we operate out of that place where we're serving people, then I really do believe that one day you'll die, and you'll see Jesus face to face, and he'll look at you, and he'll say, well done, good and faithful servant. Well done, you were faithful with a few things, and now I'm going to put you in charge of many things. Well done, good and faithful servant. You were a good and faithful CEO. You were a good and faithful parent, you are a good and faithful salesman or accountant or administrative assistant, hopefully pastor. I think he'll look at you and say, well done, and thank you for your service. But it starts with us understanding and catching on to his vision. So just do that work. Figure out the vision statement for your job. If you can't figure out why your job matters, ask your friends, ask your spouse. Typically, other people can see why your work is important more than you can. But figure it out. Why is your job important? Get that written down, and then next week we're going to take the next step and figure out that how you work or how you act at work matters. So pray with me. God, I thank you for who you are. God, I thank you for being the kind of God who gives us this grand vision for the importance of our role in the world and the importance of our work in the world. God, you breathe dignity back into our jobs, but so many of us, I mean, myself included, I'm even a pastor, we work 90,000 hours, and a good majority of those hours, we just think that our work is pointless and fruitless, and it's just sapping us dry. It's exhausting. God, I'm praying for an extra ounce of creativity, an extra ounce of imagination, an extra ounce of wisdom and discernment to figure out how our jobs are actually serving the world. God, you're the holder of dignity. You look at us and you say, yes, you're broken, yes, you're a mess, but because of Jesus, you're paid for. And so I don't start with broken and mess. I start with you as an individual, and you begin to breathe life and dignity back into our world. God, do that with our jobs this week. Please help us to figure out how they serve the world. Help us to figure out how they're important to you and important to us and important to the people around us. God, we're about to sing this song, and this song kind of lays out your vision for life. It lays out your mission. God, we're going to set our eyes on you and set our eyes on who you are. And the more that we do that, the more we realize your eyes are set on other people. Your eyes are set on serving the world around you. We want to catch that. We want to catch that vision, so help us today. God, I love you very, very much. Thank you for being who you are, and thank you so much for Jesus Christ, who makes this kind of life a reality for us. And it's in his name that I pray. Amen.
See the Father, hopeful eyes that burn with love,
great morning together. We're so glad you're here this morning. As always, if you want to talk to someone and have someone pray with you, there's a prayer team at the stage up here. Buckets at the back if you would like to give. Have a great week, everyone. Enjoy this awesome weather. We'll see you next time.